British Prime Minister Boris Johnson wants to support NATO allies in Eastern Europe in the face of Russian hostilities and send more soldiers to the region. If President Putin chooses the path of bloodbath, it will be a tragedy for Europe, he stressed. In view of the tense situation in Ukraine, Great Britain wants to expand its military engagement in Eastern Europe. Prime Minister Boris Johnson is considering doubling the number of British troops in the region and supplying Estonia with weapons for self-defense, the British government said on Saturday evening. According to official figures, more than 900 British soldiers are currently stationed in Estonia, more than 100 in Ukraine and 150 in Poland. This package of measures would send a strong message to the Kremlin. We will not condone their destabilizing activities and stand firm with our NATO allies in the face of Russian hostilities, Johnson said. And he said, if President Putin chooses the path of bloodbath and destruction, it will be a tragedy for Europe. Ukraine must be free to choose its future. Johnson said he ordered the military to prepare to provide land, sea and air support to NATO allies in Europe. The evening before, it had become known that Johnson would soon be on the phone with Putin and was planning a trip to the region. The exact destination has not yet been named, so was the proper date. But the British government wants to discuss military options today, it was said at least. Chief of Staff Tony Radakin will brief the cabinet on the situation tomorrow. The details of the British offer are also to be discussed with NATO in Brussels. Johnson also wants to meet with the heads of state and government of the NATO members at the beginning of February. Government circles said that without details once again. And Secretary of State Liz Truss and Secretary of Defense Ben Wallace are due to travel to Moscow soon for talks. US President Joe Biden announced on Friday that he intended to send additional troops to the Eastern European NATO countries in view of the impending Russian invasion. He had previously put 8,500 soldiers on increased readiness so that they could be moved quickly if necessary. According to Western sources, Russia has massed more than 100,000 soldiers on the Ukrainian borders. Others speak of 120,000. The West is therefore concerned that Russia is preparing to invade the neighboring country after annexing Crimea in 2014. Against the backgrounds of the tensions, NATO announced earlier this week that it would increase its military presence in Eastern Europe. The Kremlin has denied any plans and has demanded security guarantees from the USA and NATO. The alliance and the USA recently rejected in writing core demands by Russia for a rejection of Ukraine's NATO membership and a ban on the stationing of NATO weapons near Russian borders. And today, the Foreign Office in London also plans to announce new sanctions that are intended to affect Russia's strategic and financial interests, as they put it. And there is a thing about the whole thing. It is a big threat on Eastern Europe and especially on Ukraine. But in reality, an attack would ruin Russia. They really can't afford to do that. But unfortunately, there's not always reason in the heads of leaders who are thinking about war. And in this country, we know what we're talking about. And it seems that all of this is just a smokescreen to get concessions from NATO and that there won't be an attack. That's what everyone with a sound mind would say. And I read this a lot in the comments under my videos. And I would have to agree if I could believe that Putin is always the one with just calculating and in a sound mind that he has some hidden plans behind this. But with a government as authoritarian as that, you always have to believe that in the end, the possibility of an invasion is still there. You can't rule that one out. And so everything that's happening in the governments at the moment, they will have to deal with a situation where in the end, if they are unable to de-escalate without just doing what Moscow wants, there could be an invasion of the Ukraine. And that's what I always keep in my mind when I'm talking here in these videos. And that makes it so absolutely difficult to predict anything. And I don't want to be in the shoes of the Western heads of government at the moment, because they have to decide on action that has massive consequences of the future on this continent. And if they are wrong, if they believe, for example, that Putin would never invade because they can't afford it, and if they are wrong, then we are in bigger trouble than we have been in a long time. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.